Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Leanne and I talk about books. Today I have a different kind of video. So one of the tags that I have seen floating around BookTube is the Trash My TBR tag. This is a little bit different, but if you haven't heard of the Trash My TBR tag, I'll link the original video and the creator in the down bar below because I did not do my due diligence and I don't have that information off the top of my head. But it's basically where like you throw your TBR out there and you know, have people let you know like what's worth keeping and what's worth getting rid of. So I was curious and I started thinking about it, and I took to Twitter and I posted pictures of my shelves and I said, look through these pictures, tell me what to keep, tell me what to get rid of. And the fun part about this is that my shelves are not separated by read and unread. So there are tons of books on there that I have already read. I didn't share this with anybody. I just said, trash my TBR, tell me what you think of these books. And the results were really interesting. So let's just, jump right into this. So Bonfire by Kristen Ritter, only one person commented on this and it just said my friends who read this book said that it wasn't worth their time. That's cool that your friends didn't like it. I have learned in my experience that just because my friends didn't really like something, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not gonna like it. I may be a little bit more wary of it, but if I read a synopsis and it's a book that I am really interested in, I'm gonna read it anyway. But the next one's probably a little bit controversial, and I have not read it yet. It's Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. And I hear really amazing things, which is one of the reasons that I bought the book to begin with. But the couple of comments that I have here are people who were left underwhelmed. So one says, very underwhelming, and the more time passes, the worse I think it is. If you're a fantasy fan, Children of Blood and Bone will be a huge letdown. This one, again, this is more controversial because if you live under a rock and are not aware of the whole shitstorm that happened between Tomi Adeyemi and Nora Roberts, that was a thing on the internet where they were released, or Nora Roberts is releasing or released a book with a very similar title, and Adeyemi went off on Twitter about how she stole the title of Children of Blood and Bone or something like that, and it was this real big shitstorm. But this person's comment says, authors shouldn't be supported for false allegations. And before I move on from that, I think that she made a mistake in her tweets. I think that if she was actually concerned about it, she probably should have reached out to Nora Roberts' people. I understand her frustration to a point, but she did not handle it the way that she needed to. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. But also the Insta Love was bad. I'm not a huge fan of Insta Love, so I don't know. But again, on the flip side, I have heard a lot of really amazing things about this book. I really love that this book is fantasy written by a Black author, and so there are people that are actually getting to see themselves in a fantasy work like that. So I really appreciate it for that aspect of it. Again, I haven't read it. I'm interested to see what I think whenever I do finally get to it. And even though there were a couple of comments that said that it was underwhelming, there also wasn't anybody coming to its defense. So, I don't know. Alias Grace by Margaret Atwood. Love Atwood, but that book was boring as fuck. DNF. Ugh. The next book on this list, and I keep looking away because I'm having to read this off of a computer screen, so forgive me, but the next book, a lot of you had opinions about it. A lot of you. And I'm actually probably going to be reading this book in February because I haven't read it yet, but and that's Everything by Nicola Yoon. And I read The Sun Is Also a Star, and I loved that book. Loved it, which I'm pretty sure somebody talked shit about The Sun Is Also a Star, actually, now that I think about it. Ending felt like a cop-out. I get what the author was trying to do, but she missed the mark. Totally predictable and generic. Somebody also said that they seconded this. Everything is everything you don't want in a book, but The Sun Is Also a Star, keep that shit because it's amazing. Just all right at best. Somebody else said that they agreed with another commenter that I should skip it. Someone else said that it was ableist. I have heard that more than once. Another commenter said it was sweet and enjoyable, but there's an uncool plot twist and shitty immune disease rep. Yikes. And then another person said both of her books were very mediocre. Again, I really like The Sun Is Also a Star, so I'm extremely interested to see how I feel about this. So The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness, which I have read. That ish boring. Hated this book. It's my least favorite book ever. So boring, and there's no reason for any of the plot, and it just drives me nuts. 600 pages of waste. Clearly you have feelings about this, and I'm sorry that you did not like it, but I liked it whenever I read it. We have another Patrick Ness book, The Rest of Us Just Live Here. Hugely disappointing, and someone else said that they agree and that I should definitely skip that one. Not looking good for Patrick Ness. So this one is another fun one, and this is about an author as a whole. So I have a nice little collection up on my shelves of Chuck Palahniuk. So a lot of y'all had a lot to say about Mr. Palahniuk, let me tell you. Fight Club was annoying at best. He's hugely overrated. Get rid of all his work, okay? But if you're determined to keep him, at least get rid of Fight Club. The movie is much stronger, even he acknowledges this in interviews. I liked Fight Club, the movie, and I liked Fight Club, the book. Now, it's been years since I've read the book, so I might feel differently about it now. I don't know, but it's not very high on my like reread list, to be completely honest. So I'm just gonna go with the memory of I liked it when I read it. Overrated and the books don't have great payoff. Okay, get rid of all the Palahniuk. Get rid of Pygmy. Couldn't get through Fight Club. Pygmy is racist as hell. Avoid it at all costs. Once you've read one Palahniuk book, you've read them all. And I'm convinced that Invisible Monsters was the only one of them that was worth a damn. Okay, so about that, I've read Invisible Monsters, all right? And I had a lot of problems with that book, and it's the book that I think I've seen most people like the most from him. So that is extremely interesting to me that so many people think that that book is fucking brilliant, and I just didn't think that it was brilliant. So that's interesting. A Brief History of Seven Killings, which I also haven't read. I do plan on reading it maybe in February. A slog to get through, and it was very confusing. So that one is actually very large, and I'm probably going to listen to an audio. This one is also about an author just in general, Neil Gaiman, who I love, and said Neil Gaiman's overrated. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I surely do not. And I will not be getting rid of anything of his from my shelves. So, The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, which I have not read. Didn't care for it. Really didn't like it at all, even though I know it's a classic. Just because it's a classic doesn't mean you have to like it, because I don't like a lot of classics. The author genuinely loathes that people ship her male characters and has spoken out about how much she hates that people assume they're queer. It was a whole ordeal. And actually, after I read that, I do remember that being a thing. I remember seeing it on Twitter and stuff. And I think that's one of the reasons that I haven't read that book. I do want to read it just because it's a classic and it's really short, so I do want to read it at some point, but that is really fucking gross that the author is like that. Very unfortunate. So Cleopatra, A Life, which is by Stacy Schiff, and it's one of the only nonfiction books on my shelves, and I have read that one. I liked it. It was interesting. Didn't love it. Someone said it was a very meh biography, and they didn't enjoy The Witches by her either, and I definitely agree with that description. It was very meh. Like, I liked it, didn't love it. And actually, since doing this, I have put that in my unhaul pile, so that's a thing. Also because I ran out of room on my shelves. Hex. DNF early on because of the way it was written. It was very confusing, not scary, and all over the place. Overall, terrible. And then another person commented and said how much they liked it. So that seems to have differing opinions. I'm looking forward to reading it. Little Heaven by Nick Cutter, which I've also read, said it was just terrible. But I didn't hate Little Heaven. I didn't think that it was terrible. I just thought it was okay. This next one is also one of my favorites. So let's talk about Josh Malerman. Bird Box has become like this huge thing just because it was just made into a movie, which I've seen the movie. I liked the movie. Hated Bird Box. Had to DNF because the writing was awful. And I don't necessarily agree, but okay. Mad Black Wheel and Unburied Carol. Compared to his first books, these are not the best. I agree. I was very underwhelmed by both of those books, honestly, but I really love Bird Box, so. And then just Bird Box was dumb. Again, I don't agree. City of Brass was very meh, which I know is an unpopular opinion since everyone adores it. Here's the thing about unpopular opinions though. It's fine if you have an unpopular opinion. Like, it really is. people like different things based on their own experiences, right? So it makes sense that somebody might like something because of an experience that they've had versus someone else has not had that experience, so they don't like it. That's really the whole point of this exercise, is to really just show how subjective literature is, you know, and how our experiences shape our opinions. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the problem comes in when you shit all over other people for actually liking a book, if that makes any sense. Next is, again, another author, and that is Celeste Ng. I've read both of her books, Everything I Never Told You and Little Fires Everywhere, and I really enjoyed both of them. Everything I Never Told You was all about the characters, and there was literally no mystery about it. Loved Little Fires Everywhere, though. That's one of the reasons that I really loved Everything I Never Told You, is because of the fact that it was very character oriented, and those are books that I really like. I love a character driven story. It's just, you know, one of the things that I like in literature. And then Little Fires was overhyped and ended really flat, though I'm in the minority here. I mean, I totally understand falling into book hype, because I have definitely fallen into book hype multiple times, but that was a book that I thought the hype was well deserved, personally. Night Film by Marissa Pessl. I loved that book. I actually listened to the audio of that book, and then I bought a physical copy because I loved it so much. I'm in the minority, but it was a bust for me. Really weird, and the ending was meh. I had a conversation with a friend. Shout out to the BNF crew, with friends, I should say. If you tell me that a book is really weird, like, I'm probably gonna be like, tell me more. Like, what book is this? Let me add it to my list. I don't know. I like shit like that. I thought the ending for Night Film made sense. I really did. The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I haven't read this. I've never read anything by Cormac McCarthy, but I've been seeing a lot about him lately, and he's an author that actually intimidates the shit out of me. So it's actual trash. I couldn't get through it. Okay. Very challenging and frustrating writing style. Doesn't look good for me. I don't know about the book, but the movie was the worst. So fucked up. Couldn't watch the last half of it. Okay. And then on the flip side, somebody commented and said, I actually really liked this book. Okay. Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. I have read this book. I did enjoy this book. But someone commented and said, the story is unrealistic. It has good OCD rep and its own voices, but the story drags and the main plot is resolved in 15 pages. It almost feels like it got thrown out when we met the love interest. It was mediocre. I disagree. I saw that book very differently than this person did, so that's fine. Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and this is another book that I'm probably going to read in February. This one got a comment saying that it normalizes cheating, and the author has said a couple of transphobic things. And I do remember seeing the stuff about her saying transphobic stuff, and that sucks. Wild Beauty. The writing was beautiful, but the story was confusing and boring. The writing was beautiful, but the storytelling and the magical realism was clumsy and slow. I didn't like it. I agree, you can skip this one. That was another book that was like seriously hyped, and that was one of the reasons that I picked it up when I did, was because I had seen so many things about it. Written in the Stars. Some rape apologist shit in there, but I've seen no one else mention it, so maybe I'm just overly sensitive. So this is another point. I don't think that there is such a thing as being overly sensitive. I think that this type of thing just comes from, once again, our own experiences and the way that we interpret the text. If that's how you view it, you shouldn't say that you're being overly sensitive, because again, sometimes things can be right in front of your face, like issues with the text can be right in front of your face, and you don't notice it because you haven't experienced that, and it takes another person to really point that out to you so you can, you know, like actually see that. That's happened to me multiple times where like I've read a book and I really liked it, and then somebody has had a valid criticism about it, and it's like, oh shit, I never thought of it that way, but now that it's pointed out to me, like I can see that as being a valid criticism. It doesn't necessarily take away from my enjoyment of the book as a whole, but I can see that this is a potential issue. It is okay to like things that are problematic. You just have to point out the fact that they are problematic, and you need to acknowledge that. You need to listen to other people that are saying that they are problematic. So, side tangent. Okay, this is another one that's about an author. Rainbow Rowell. Eleanor in Park is racist. Get rid of attachments. The characters are horrible and they say harmful stuff. Eleanor and attachments both stink, but I also find her to be an overrated author in general. Rainbow Rowell is one of those authors that seems to be extremely polarizing. People either absolutely love her books or they really hate them. So I am really interested to see how I'm gonna fall into that category. I strongly disliked Eleanor in Park. It was a fake period piece, and the tragic backstories of the characters didn't save it for me. Park deserved better. That person clearly has feelings about it. And then somebody said attachments, trash it girl. So I'm a little scared to read Rainbow Rowell now. The Red Queen by Philippa Gregory was frustrating, and I didn't prefer the character's point of view. Just skip to watching the Stars show. I really liked the Cousins War series, or War of the Roses, or whatever she calls it now. I thought that it was really good. I really liked, it's White Queen, Red Queen, Lady of the Rivers, The Kingmaker's Daughters, and a couple of other ones. But I really liked those books, honestly. This is another a really fun one. The Grisha Trilogy. Okay, so let me start off by saying I did read the Grisha Trilogy, and I liked it. I thought that it was like, okay, it wasn't the best thing that I've ever read, but it was just okay. After reading Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom though, the glow up is real in terms of the writing and the characterization. Like, Leigh Bardugo learned a lot in between the writing of those books and then the writing of the Six of Crows duology. So anyway, this one is another one that people had opinions on. The Grisha Trilogy is unreadable. It is so poorly written. Well, a lot of people read it and it did get published, so I don't think that it's unreadable that it's so poorly written. Only worth it for the world building and to see Leigh Bardugo grow as an author. Otherwise, it's mediocre to bad. I mean, it's mediocre. I liked it, but it's nothing like, oh my God, you have to read this now. I think that it's worth it to read it before going into Six of Crows, but I don't think that it was like the worst book that I ever read. Never able to get into the series, and Six of Crows was a huge disappointment, but that might be because I never read the original series. I think, commenter, that is because you didn't read the original series. I think that a lot of the world building takes place in the original Grisha Trilogy, and I think that you really need that to get invested in the Six of Crows trilogy. I briefly considered not reading the Grisha Trilogy first, and I'm really, really glad that I did. So, next one is another author that I love. I love Gillian Flynn, okay? Love her books. And this is my favorite comment out of all of the comments that I got in this thread. Gone Girl was like reading a very long, boring argument between two married assholes. Waste less time and watch the movie if you really need to know what happens. It's better. I will say that Gone Girl is probably my least favorite of her 3 books, but I didn't think it was that bad. Someone commented and said that Flynn doesn't all the way understand feminism, but the books are entertaining. I'm not sure I understand this, to be completely honest with you. One of the things that I love so much about Flynn's writing is that she was one of the first authors that I personally read that had books with female protagonists that unapologetically were fucked up. I have read many books with a flawed male protagonist that has, you know, a tragic backstory and makes poor decisions because of it and doesn't necessarily try to be a better person. But I've read very few female protagonists that are like that. And that's one of the draws to me about Flynn's writing. Gone Girl has incredibly unlikable characters and an infuriating ending. I will agree that the ending is infuriating, but I think the whole point is the fact that the characters are unlikable. But that's just me. I don't know why people are hating on Gone Girl. That shit is delightful. Everyone is horrible and I fucking love it, and I fucking agree with you, commenter. Next is Flowers in the Attic. Says it's not worth the hype. I wasn't aware that there was hype surrounding that book, considering when it came out, but okay. This Savage Song by V.E. Schwab or Victoria Schwab, whichever one, I can't remember which. Get rid of it. Not worth it. I haven't read a V.E. Schwab yet. So, this makes me scared for this to be my first one, but I do have a Darker Shade of Magic on audio, so that might be my first from her. I don't know. Somebody just said it was the middle of the road, it was 3 stars, so I don't know. But I did see a lot of people who really loved it. And the last one for the trash in my TBR is about Song of Achilles, which I loved that book, and they said, unpopular opinion, but get rid of it. No, it's on my shelf and I'm keeping it because I love it. Anyway, the whole point of this was really just to show how different people are and how different people read, because a lot of people trash books on here that I really like, or authors that I really like. So, which is fine. Once again, like, I'm not gonna come for anybody, and I'm not gonna tell these people that they're dumb for having the opinions they do, because their opinions are based on their experiences, and that's okay. And like, my opinions are based on my experiences. So it's more or less an exercise to show that aspect of things. So that was a fun little exercise. Twitter really delivered. I was really scared whenever I posted that nobody was gonna comment on it, but I got a lot of responses, and I think that it was really fun. And once again, I think that it was really fun to read the responses of other people and what they thought, especially about books that I liked. So, but have you read any of the books that I talked about in this video? Comment down below and let me know what you thought of them. Remember, we're shitting on the book, not the people that are making the comments. So anyway, if you like what you see and you want to see more, make sure you click thumbs up and hit subscribe if you haven't already. All of my social media links can be found in the down bar below, where you can find my Twitter if you don't follow me. I'm not that interesting of a person, but sometimes I say funny shit. There's also pictures of my cats on there. Same thing with my Bookstagram and my stories, which you can also find that link down below. Anyway, thank you guys so very much for watching, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.